Good morning, students. Today we are going to discuss regarding Module 5, that is synchronous machine design. So, in this particular session, I am going to complete some of the topics like introduction of synchronous machine and then applications of the synchronous machine construction. Then we are going to discuss about some design of that synchronous machine, in that output equation of the synchronous machine, and then the specific magnetic loading, specific electric loading, and then the some of the examples we are going to discuss. So I am going to show you some of the documents, so where we can get uh, some uh, basics. So here I will start with the design of synchronous machine introduction. So in order to discuss the synchronous machines, let us have a definition of that synchronous machine. What is synchronous machine? So again, synchronous machine is nothing but a particular machine which generates electricity in synchronism with the other systems or other machines which are already existed in the particular network. Again, in order to generate that particular electricity, so this generator is again coupled with many of the other generators, and it has to match the particular parameters with the other parameters. So it is not like a other machines, so it is a bit different than other machines. So normally synchronous machines are AC machines. These are AC machines, and these are again having a field circuit supplied by an external DC source, where we can have the excitation. Synchronous machines are having two major parts, namely stationary part called as stator and a rotating field called as rotor. So this synchronous machine is generally a particular AC machine, and it is called as an alternator, where we can see this particular in a huge power plants. So in synchronous generator, a DC current is applied to the rotor winding, producing a rotor magnetic field. So the rotor is then driven by external means, producing a rotating magnetic field which induces three-phase voltage within the stator winding. So field windings are the windings producing the main magnetic field, and these are the rotor windings. Armature windings are the windings where the main voltage is induced. So these are nothing but stator windings for the synchronous machines. Coming to the types of synchronous machine, there are mainly three type of synchronous machines. So one is the hydro generator, where we can use in the hydroelectric power plants. So these are run at lower speed. Here you can see these are run at lower speed, less than the 1000 rpm. And then the turbo generators, these are the generators driven by steam turbines. So normally, whatever the generators or whatever the machines, synchronous machines we are using in the thermal power plants, so these are again the turbo generators. So these run at very high speed of 1500 rpm or above. So in the third, that is engine driven generators, these are driven by IC engines. Again, whatever the again, if you see the nuclear power plant or other power plants, so again if you see the diesel engines, so again diesel generators, so these are driven by IC engines, and these run at a speed less than the 1500 rpm. So hence the prime movers for the synchronous generators are hydraulic turbines. So again, whatever the prime movers will be there, which means whatever the synchronous generator is there, it is again coupled with that particular prime mover. So prime mover has to rotate, and hence whatever the synchronous generator is there, so it will rotate henceforth. So these prime movers generally what we are using, so they are hydraulic turbines, or steam turbines, or sometimes they are IC engines. IC engines. So again, hydraulic turbines, Pelton wheel turbine, Francis turbine, Kaplan turbine, steam turbines. Again, in this case, the synchronous generators run by steam turbines are called turbo generators or turbo alternators. Again, steam turbines are to be run at very high speed to get higher efficiency, and hence these types of generators are run at higher speeds. Diesel engines in IC engines are used as prime movers for very small rated generator. These are the basic classification of the synchronous machines. Coming to the construction of synchronous machine, there are mainly two type of constructions. Again, based on the rotor part. So one is the salient pole machine, and second is non-salient pole or the cylindrical rotor, or it is round rotor machine. So coming to the salient pole machine, these type of machines have salient pole or projecting poles, as the name indicates, with concentrated field windings. So this type of construction is for the machines which are driven by a hydraulic turbines or the diesel engines. So normally this type of construction we can use in the hydroelectric power plants. So whatever the machines which are used in the hydroelectric, they are of salient pole. They are of the rotor is a salient pole machine. That is, whatever the pole on the rotor periphery is there, it is projected. Coming to the non-salient pole, cylindrical rotor. So these machines are having cylindrical smooth rotor construction. Whatever the rotor construction is there, it is cylindrical. So there is no such. Again, we have seen that in the salient pole, whatever the air gap is there, it is um, non-uniform, and whereas the cylindrical, the air gap is uniform. So hence, this in this particular, the rotor construction is very smooth, cylindrical, with the distributed field windings in the slots. This type of rotor construction is employed for the machine driven by steam turbines, means in the thermal power plants or in the some nuclear power plants, where we are going to heat the particular water to the again uh, particular high temperature, so we can get huge amount of steam. That is, water is being superheated, so that steam will be passed to the or it is stored in particular chamber, and then by using the nozzle it can be um, uh, again allows to fall on the particular turbine blades. So that is a different procedure. So here these are the two type of machines. One is cylindrical, second is cylindrical. Next is the construction of hydro generators. So in this case, coming to the construction of hydro generator, these type of machines are constructed based on the water head available, and hence these machines are low speed machines. So these machines are constructed based on the mechanical consideration. For the given frequency, the low speed demands large number of poles and consequently the again larger diameter. So please keep it in mind that in the hydro generator, whatever the speed of the machine is there, it is low. It is low, and these machines are constructed based on the mechanical consideration. So for the given frequency, the low speed demands large number of poles. So for example, if I say whatever the F is there, or NS is equal to 120 F dot by P. So again, F will be uh, N into P divided by again uh, 120. So in that case, if I say frequency is constant, again if it is a low speed, then again the number of poles should be large, and consequently if the number of poles are large, then the diameter of that particular machine again will increases. So again, the machine should be so connected such that it permits the machine to be transported to the site. It is normal to practice to design the rotor to withstand the centrifugal force and stress produced at twice the normal operating speed. So in this case, again, the stator core, if I say in the hydroelectric, whatever the hydro generators are there, the stator is the outer stationary part of the machine, which consists of the outer cylindrical frame called yoke, which is made either of welded sheet steel or cast iron, and the magnetic path, which comprises a set of slotted steel laminations called stator core pressed into the cylindrical space inside the outer frame. The magnetic path is laminated to reduce eddy currents, reducing losses and heating. And here the CRGO laminations of 0.5 mm thickness are used to reduce the iron losses. So this is again, if I say a detailed construction of stator core. So here you can say this is the stator core. This is the stator slot, and these are the stator laminations, and this is a again the stator. So this, in this particular, we are going to put the armature. We are just putting the rotor part. So let us have this particular. Yes, this is uh, the stator part. This is surrounding is the stator part, and inside there is there we need to keep this particular rotor. So this is again stator of a second pole alternator. This is huge construction. So stator of a silent pole alternator. So here there are some rotor slots and some uh, rotor windings are made, and inside this there we are going to keep the, sorry, this is the stator windings, stator slots. Here we are going to keep the rotor. So this is something construction of the particular hydro hydro generators. This is stator core. Now we will see, we will move towards the next. It is uh, s- again, this is the rotor of a, again, water wheel generator, or you can say the hydro generator. So this is a rotor. Whatever the, again, diameter of that particular rotor is there. So this is the rotor, huge size rotor, you can say. It is, this is a rotor of a silent pole. This is a rotor of a silent pole machine. Diameter is long, and this is a rotor of a non-silent pole alternator. The length is long. Here, if I say this is length. So this is something about uh, two type of machines. Now we will see the relative dimensions of turbo and water wheel alternators. So this is very important because, again, if I see the dimensions of the stator rotor in the, again, turbo and in some water wheel alternator. So this is, turbo alternators are normally designed with the two poles with the speed of 3000 rpm for a 50 Hz frequency. Hence peripheral speed is very high. So as the diameter is proportional to peripheral speed, the diameter of high speed machines has to be kept low. For a given volume of the machine. When the diameter is kept low, the axial length of the machine increases. So hence a turbo alternator will have small diameter and large axial length. Large axial length, just now we have seen, whatever the machine is there, it is having small diameter and with large axial length. However, in case of water wheel generator, what happens? the speed will be low. The speed will be low, and hence number of poles required will be large. So this will indirectly increase the diameter of the machine. Whatever the machine size or the diameter is there, it is increases because number of poles are high there. So hence for a given volume of the machine, the length of the machine reduces. Hence the water wheel generator will have large diameter and small axial length in contrast to turbo alternators. In contrast to turbo. This is the main difference between the turbo alternator and the water wheel alternator. Then coming to the introduction to design. So synchronous machines are designed to obtain the following informations. So one is in order to design the machine, we need to consider the main dimensions of the stator frame, the main dimensions of the stator frame, again the complete detail of stator winding, design detail of rotor and rotor winding, performance details of the machines, performance detail of the these four are to be considered. To proceed with the design and arrive at the design information, the design engineer needs the following information also. So again, along with that, we need to have specifications of the synchronous machine in order to arrive at the information design. We need to have specification of the synchronous machine, information regarding the choice of design parameters, knowledge on availability of the material, limiting values of performance parameters, and then detail of design equations. Detail of design equations. So these are the basic information we need to require in order to have that design. Then we move towards specifications of the synchronous machine. So coming to the specification, the important specifications required to initiate the design procedure are as follows. So rated output of the machine in kVA or MVA. Rated output of the machine in kVA or MVA. Rated voltage of the machine in kV. Speed, frequency, type of the machine, generator or motor, type of rotor, salient pole or non-salient pole, connection of stator winding, limit of temperature, detail of prime mover, etc. Detail of prime mover, etc. So main dimensions, internal diameter and gross length of the stator forms the main dimensions of the machine. So as we have discussed in the DC machine, in the transformer and in the induction motor, so the similar way here also we need to have the main dimensions. Internal diameter and gross length of the stator forms the main dimension, D and L. In order to obtain the main dimensions, it is required to develop the relation between the output and the main dimensions of the machine. What is the relation between output and the main dimensions of the machine? So this relation, the whatever the relation between the output and the main dimensions of the machine is known as output equation. Is known as output equation. So now, hence, we need to have we need to derive an expression for output equation of a synchronous machine. And please remember, the output equation of the synchronous machine is the same as that of the induction machine, three-phase induction motor. Again, uh, there are some change in the parameters, because whatever the synchronous machine is there, it has to again have the synchronism with the other particular existing motors and with the network. So this particular or whatever the parameters are there, they may change. The output equation remains same, but whatever the change in the parameters or whatever the effect of that particular parameter is there, it is bit changes. So now all output equation that is of this particular is same as that of the particular induction motor. So whatever the equation we are getting here, this is see, Q is equal to 11 BAV Q KW into 10 minus 3 D square L NS KVA. So again, therefore output Q will be C naught D square L NS KVA. So whatever the bracket C naught is there, so it is the output coefficient we can say. So finally we can get D square L as Q divided by C naught NS meter cube, where C naught will be this thing. So here we phase voltage, I phase current, E phase induced EMF, per phase. Again, Z phase will be number of conductors per phase in the stator. T phase, number of turns per phase. Ns synchronous speed in RPM. Small ns synchronous speed in RPS. P number of poles. Q specific electric loading. Pi is area flux pole. Flux per pole. VAV average flux density. KW will be winding factor. So from the output equation of the machine, it can be seen that the volume of machine is directly proportional to the output of the machine and inversely proportional to the speed of the machine. So here from that particular above equation, what we can say is the output equation, the volume of the machine is directly proportional to the output of the machine and inversely proportional to the speed of the machine. So again, this volume, whatever the main size of the machine is there, it is again depends on the directly proportional to the output of the machine. Because if I increase the output of the machine, then automatically the volume of the machine will increase. Volume of the machine will increase, and hence the speed of the machine will reduce. The speed of the machine will reduce. So the machines having higher speed will have reduced size and cost. And cost. Larger values of specific loadings, smaller will be the size of the machine. So this is the conclusion. So larger values of specific loadings, smaller will be the size of the machine. So we need to have that specific loading uh, to a certain level, so where we can achieve particular efficiency and particular good performance. So in order to have that, so we need to go through the choice of specific loadings. Choice of specific loading. So from the output equation, it is seen that choice of higher value of specific magnetic and electric loading leads to reduced cost and size of the machine So keeping in mind that reduced cost and the size of the machine, we need to consider the specific loadings. Choice of specific loadings. So first is the specific magnetic loading. So again, following are the factors which influence the performance of the machine. So this is again coming to the magnetic loading. So there are mainly 5 parameters again on which that particular magnetic loading depends. So one is iron loss. So if I increase that specific magnetic loading, again coming to the iron loss, what happens? So again, if I increase that specific magnetic loading, let us say BAV, if I increase, again the iron loss will increase. Iron loss will increase because a high value of flux density in the air gap leads to higher value of flux in the iron parts of the machine, which results in the increased iron losses and reduced efficiency. So the specific magnetic loading should be minimum moderate in order to reduce the iron losses. In order to reduce the iron loss, that is first. Then second is voltage. So when the machine is designed for higher voltage, space occupied by the insulation becomes more, thus making the teeth smaller and hence higher value for density in teeth and the core. So voltage again it comes into picture. In case of the machine, what happens? If the again whatever the Q is there, it is again the output uh, rating or the again output equation of the machine Q is equal to what we say is V into I. So there, if I say if I increase that particular in order to have that increase in the output or increase in the rating of the machine, again we need to increase the voltage. So again, if I say synchronous machine or synchronous generator, we are generating higher power with the higher voltage. Means we need to generate that particular maximum power at high voltage, at high voltage. So if the voltage is increased, then what happens? Uh, Whatever the space occupied by the insulation becomes more. So automatically, uh, in order to avoid the failures in the machine, so again the insulation will be more because voltage is more here. So if insulation is more, it becomes more, that is thus making the teeth smaller and hence higher flux density in the teeth and the core. So the third is transient short circuit current. Transient short circuit current. What is transient short circuit current? So this is nothing but um, whenever we switch on that particular machine at starting, from the point of that starting, whatever the uh, fluctuations or whatever the increase or decrease of that particular parameters, change in the parameters is there, so it will lead to that transient conditions. It will lead to some transient conditions. So at that point, so we will see some transient short circuit currents. Transient short circuit currents. So in this case, what happens? A high value of gap density results in a decrease in the leakage reactance. So again, because high value of gap density means this is if the flux density is more, then the flux will be more. So flux linkage will be more, and the leakage, whatever the leakage is there, so leakage flux it is less. So if leakage flux is less, then leakage reactance is also less, and hence increased value of armature current. So if leakage reactance decrease, the value of armature current will be increased. Again, whatever the short circuit current is there, so it will increase. Short circuit current will be increases. So this short circuit current should be at a certain uh, level, and whatever the synchronous machine or the machine which is designed, it should have to withstand that particular short circuit condition, short circuit current. So again, that is also one point, transient short circuit current. If I increase that particular, uh, again, whatever the specific magnetic loading, then the short circuit current will increases. Then fourth is stability. The maximum power output of the machine under steady state condition is indirectly proportional to the synchronous reactance. Indirectly proportional to the synchronous reactance. So if higher value of flux density is used, it leads to smaller number of turns per phase in armature winding, and this results in reduced value of leakage reactance and hence increased value of power and hence increased steady state stability. Again, stability comes into picture in that particular synchronous motor. Uh, so stability, again, because it is in synchronization with the other particular system, so stability comes into the picture. Parallel operation. The satisfactory parallel operation of synchronous generators depends on the synchronizing power. Depends on the synchronizing power. Higher the synchronizing power, higher will be the ability of machine to operate in synchronism. So the synchronizing power is inversely proportional to the synchronous reactance, and hence the machines designed with higher value of air gap flux density will have better ability to operate in parallel with the other machines. So again, this is the fifth parameter, parallel operation. Then the second, that is specific electric loading. Following are the some factors which influence this choice of specific electric loading. Again, here also we'll see the copper loss. Again, it affects higher the value of Q, that is electric loading. Larger will be the number of armature conductors, which results in higher copper loss because armature is carrying the current, and hence it will result in higher copper loss. This will result in higher temperature rise and reduction in the efficiency. Then the voltage also comes into the picture. A higher value of, again, Q, that is electric loading, can be used for low voltage machine since the space required for the insulation will be smaller. Then synchronous reactance, high value of Q leads to higher value of leakage reactance and armature reaction, and hence higher value of the synchronous reactance. Such machines will have poor voltage regulation, lower value of current under short circuit condition, and low value of steady state stability limit and small value of synchronizing power. Again, the stray load losses with the increase of Q, stray load losses will increase. So value of specific and magnetic loading, that is specific electric and magnetic loading, can be selected from design data handbook for silent and non-silent pole machines. So this is about the two loadings. One is specific magnetic and specific electric loading. So here separation of D and L, separation of D and L. So now in order to calculate that particular uh, parameters or different equivalent parameters, so we need to separate D and L from the output equation. So here inner diameter and gross length of the stator can be calculated from D square L product, obtained from the output equation. Two separate suitable relations are assumed between D and L depending on the type of the generator. To separate the particular D and L, we need to have some of the again assumed relations. So coming to the salient pole machine, in case of salient pole machine, either round or rectangular pole construction is employed. In these type of machines, the diameter of the machine will be quite larger than the axial length. Salient pole machines. Again, in the round poles, the ratio of pole arc to pole pitch may be assumed varying between 0.6 to 0.7, and pole arc may be taken as approximately equal to axial length of the stator core. Hence, the axial length of the core divided by pole pitch L by 2p will be 0.6 to 0.7. Will be 0.6 to 0.7. So these two considerations we need to have for the salient pole machine and for the round pole machines. Again, if I say rectangular poles, the ratio of axial length to pole pitch, that is L to P, may be assumed varying between 0.8 to 3. Here it is 0.6 to 0.7, now it is 0.8 to 0.03, and suitable value may be assumed based on the design specifications. So this is for the rectangular poles. So using the above relations, D and L can be separated. However, once these values are obtained, diameter of the machine must satisfy the limiting value of peripheral speed so that the rotor can withstand centrifugal forces produced. Limiting values of peripheral speeds are as follows. So peripheral speed should be considered again. One is bolted pole construction. The peripheral speed will be 45 meter per second. Dovetail pole construction, peripheral speed will be 75 meter per second. Normal design it is 30 meter per second. These are the again basic considerations. Again in the turbo alternator, if I say whatever the peripheral speed is there, it is 175 meter per second. Meter per second. Now we will see one more point, that is short circuit ratio. This is very important. So I just discussed about the short circuit current. So what is that short circuit current? If I again increase that particular flux density, then what happens? The flux linkage will be increases. Then again leakage flux will be reduces, and hence whatever the leakage reactance is there, it also reduces. Once the leakage reactance reduces, then again the short circuit current means whatever the uh, armature conductors are there, so at the particular construction they are short circuited, and our particular motor should has to withstand those particular short circuit currents. So in this case, short circuit ratio, it is defined as the ratio of field current required to produce the rated voltage on open circuit to the field current required to circulate rated current on short circuit. So this is short circuit ratio will be given by, this is the graph showing the short circuit characteristics and the open circuit characteristics. This is ISC versus IF, and this is again A naught vs IF. So this is per unit current, ISC, per unit voltage, uh, E naught along the y-axis, and along the x-axis it is again IF field current. So these are the two graphs drawn. This is SSC, SCC, and this is OCC. So from this particular graph, the figure shows open circuit and short circuit characteristics of the alternator. According to the definition, according to this particular definition, we can write short circuit ratio as OA divided by OE. This is the OA graph, and this is the OE. This is OE. OA divided by OE. So triangles OAB and OED are similar. OAB and OAD are similar. So since angle OAB is equal to angle OAD, angle OBA is equal to ODE, and hence angle OAOB is equal to angle EOD. So now I will write OA divided by OE will be this thing. So now I can get SCR is also AB divided by ED. So now we will see AB by AC is equal to 1 by AC by AB. It is nothing but 1 by AC will be open circuit voltage, AB will be short circuit current. So 1 by synchronous impedance. Now it is 1 by ZS is equal to 1 by XS, and here we are neglecting that particular resistance. So now this is the ACR, short circuit ratio. So effect of short circuit ratio on the machine performance. One is voltage regulation, effect of that SCR. One is voltage regulation, second stability, parallel operation, short circuit current, cost and size of the machine. These are the effect of ACRs. So we'll see one by one now. This is voltage regulation. Whatever the SCR short circuit ratio is there, so it also affects that particular voltage regulation. So voltage regulation will be given by E naught minus V divided by V. E naught minus V divided by V, that is no load voltage to the full load voltage divided by full load voltage. Now SCR is 1 divided by XS. Again it is XS will be synchronous reactance. So now E naught will be given by this thing, underscore root V cos pi plus IRS square plus P sin pi plus or minus IXS square, IXS. So once as XS increases, then SCR will decrease. As XS increases, SCR will decrease, and E naught output voltage will increase. Output voltage will increase. Once the output voltage increases, then whatever the regulation is there, it will increase. It will increase. So then stability. Again, stability, as synchronous reactance increases, SCR will decrease. SCR will decrease. Again, if SCR decreases, here, if I say P is equal to EB divided by XS, so synchronous reactance increases, then P will decrease. Once P decreases, the power decreases, the stability will decrease. The stability will decrease. Then parallel operation, whatever we are operating the machines in the parallel. So SCR is 1 by XS. As SCR increases, XS decreases. I into XS will again increase, V decrease, and P synchronous will decrease. Synchronism power. Now, short circuit current. Again, short circuit current here it is decreases. As SCR decreases, so again, whatever the synchronous impedance ZS is there, it is increasing. It is also increasing. So if this is increasing, automatically the short circuit current will decrease. And the size and cost of the machine. Again, as SAR decreases, so the cost of control equipment reduces. So this is for the silent pole machines, SCR value will be zero point 0.9 to 1.3, and for turbo alternators, it is zero point 0.7 to 1.11, 1.1. So this is about the SCR. So now we will see uh, the next, that is length of air gap. This is, let us say, the again how to fix that particular length of the air gap, whether it should be large or minimum. And once the length of the air gap is set, so it is going to affect many parameters. Again, there are some advantages and disadvantages. So this is what length of the air gap. So here length of the air gap is a very important parameter as it greatly affects the performance of the machine. Air gap in synchronous machine affects the value of SCR, and hence it influences many other parameters. Hence, the choice of air gap length is very critical in case of synchronous machines. So following are the advantages and disadvantages of the larger air gap. So once the air gap is large, then these are the advantages and disadvantages. So stability, regulation, synchronizing power, cooling, noise, magnetic pole. And disadvantage, field MMF, size, magnetic leakage, weight of the copper, cost. So hence length of the air gap must be selected considering the above factors. So now we will calculate the length of the air gap. So this length of the air gap is usually estimated based on the ampere turns required for the air gap. Ampere turns required for the air gap. So again, in order to have that particular length of the air gap, we need to consider armature ampere turns per pole required. So it is given by ATA is equal to 1.35 T phase kW divided by P. So where T phase is turns per phase, I phase phase current, kW winding factor, P is pair of the poles. Again, no load field current, field ampere turns per pole, AT F naught will be SCR into armature ampere turns per pole. So AT F naught, again that is no load field ampere turns per pole, is SCR into ATA. So now suitable value of SCR must be assumed here. So ampere turns required for area will be approximately equal to 70 to 75% of the no load field ampere turns per pole. So hence ATG will be what, 0.7 to 0.75 ATF naught. So air gap ampere turns ATG will be, again this is approximately 7,96,000 BG kg LG. This is again the constant term. So air gap coefficient or air gap contraction factor may be assumed varying between the 1.14 to 1.18. So as a guideline, the approximate value of air gap length can be expressed in terms of pole pitch. In terms of pole pitch, so these are the different uh, again for the different motors, type of motors, the LG will be okay given here. So this is up to the uh, that is air gap selection of the length of the air gap. So remaining part, this is design of stator winding, and then number of slots, then turns per phase, and then stator coils will be seeing in the next class. And along with that, we will finish off the some of the numericals on the D and L, calculation of D and L also. So hence here I will complete today's session.